Good morning. It is early. Nobody's in the shop yet. I've got a pretty cool project we're getting ready to start. This is gonna be a test to me how much we've actually learned. So this is OG GRDLOC. What's cool about this build is this is an original 1983 CJ7. Its wheelbase, we measured it last night, is about 122, 123. But those are a 44-inch tire. Even though it's 123, 122, you've got a situation where your breakover is very similar. The reason Alter Ego works so much better is because we stretched that another 5 inches and you're about 128 because we did a 15-inch body stretch on it. What I like about OG GRDLOC is it's a little bit more to drive this thing places and to wheel this thing than obviously Alter Ego or Rock Buggy. Both of those builds are so purpose built that they're like point and go. You could put anyone in that driver's seat, and 90% of the time I feel like they're going to succeed at what they're trying to do in an obstacle just because of how well built those vehicles are and designed. OG GRDLOC is not that vehicle. You've got to fight for the things you want. And I think that, again, that's why a lot of people may like it. We did change out the front end, which when we went to West Virginia, you saw the video there, that Carbon was driving it. And Carbon drove it up like, you know, some 4 or 5 foot rock ledges that I couldn't make it up before. And that was because we changed the way the shocks mounted and got away from the traditional tower and built a kind of like a custom tube setup, kind of like Alter Ego's. So let me show you what we did there. You've got your tube that runs right here. That runs up and goes all the way up inside there and then comes back down. Then there's a crossover bar that goes all the way across that side over there. We then moved these lower links. They used to sit right there in between everything. Now they sit out here. This is all roughly the same right here. We did put new mounts here because when I ordered these, I was an idiot and I didn't realize what an extended rod end was. And so these are flat cap and they don't have the actual angled extended rod end, which gives you a lot more articulation clearance. This axle used to move on me a little bit. Everyone saw it in videos, everyone made comments about it. But now it doesn't move at all. It literally stays on that square right there. You can see how small that square is. Our shocks are also leaned in 15 degrees and leaned back like 20. So I didn't have all of that before. They were almost straight up and down, which used to make this thing want to do this from side to side a little bit because it didn't have that. Like you can see how the rears are not as leaned in as the fronts are. So this is a factory grill. I took the custom grill that I'd made a long time ago and I basically extended this, but this is all 1/4-inch steel back here. And then that's what these bolt to. That whole front end is custom, but it's a CJ7 grill that we built all that stuff in, had these guys made, and then did the LP6s and did that whole look. To me, again, giving it a way more modern CJ7 look than just a flat. Now this hood right here was probably one of the most painstaking processes I ever did, that took a modern Moab style JL JT hood and I Frenched it into a CJ because I've never been a fan of the center section in a CJ. The problem with that is you end up with a small gap here and then this. Now when we built it, we could have probably filled that in and flattened that out to match that more. We were in a hurry trying to get this thing done. Then we chopped 3 inches, 4 inches out of the window, leaned it back to make this thing look like it was going faster, and then took your cage and did kind of the same thing where we laid everything back on it. You've got a rear end with 0 departure and you've got a front with 0 approach. Now what's nice about that is I can literally pull up to any obstacle 9 times out of 10 and just drive up it. I don't really have a problem hitting an obstacle and then, you know, trying to figure out how I'm gonna get up this thing. All of these little features and all this stuff that we did to this, we're gonna be doing to another Jeep. When you look at the boat sides on this, something I learned when I built Alter Ego was how to make it an actual boat side and not just a straight down with a rail. But when I built this, the reason I did it this way was because that's like a 1/4 inch piece of steel right there that connects everything, including the cage and your B-pillar, all to that. Then on the inside in here, there's actual plating that goes kind of on the upper fender right here, and then wraps around this corner, and then goes all the way across in front of my gas tank and almost creates a bulkhead from here back out of like 1/8 inch steel. So what's nice about that is I've got a ton of lateral support this way in the vehicle. I've got things bolted in place and all built in to where this whole back corner is really, really reinforced. Then our rear tower back here, and then we've actually got a pass-through tube that goes through underneath the body through the tower. So there's an above point when you're welded on your frame down there. There's actually a place above that that has another support that goes across to keep it from doing this. So this is Alter Ego. You've seen Alter Ego online. We drive it up back door. This does have a 128 inch wheelbase, so it's 6 inches longer than OG. We just got these in, shout out to Summit. These are pretty awesome. So we have all aluminum links on our steering now on both this and Rock Buggy, which is pretty rad. I don't think that you're saving any weight there, but you are definitely building something that's a lot stronger than the steel setup we had. So this frame is a Motobilt frame. It's their front half, center section, and back half. Now, this is all of their truss system, all of that kind of stuff. It does have their cut bumper on it. So again, it sucks everything in and pushes it up. You'll notice that my bump stops on this guy are a lot shorter than they are on OG. The reason is because we built this radiator to go higher. It's actually notched right here so that we can do that. It can go all the way up. But you'll notice that everything up here is very, very high. What's nice about that is when this thing's driving around, it has about 6 inches of up travel. OG has 4 inches. Now this sits lower than OG does by a little bit too. If you're looking at OG, what you're gonna notice is, in the video I just showed you, this tube is actually sitting down here because it's a straight bottom and there's a giant gap between my door and the top of this tube. It clears, I think, like 3 or 4 inches up and 3 or 4 inches in and gives you a tighter channel to drive up through things with so that things don't get hit or caught or whatever you want to call it. All of that's happening. These shocks back here, you'll notice there's no tower because these shocks actually go up through and connect to the cage up top. Then the cage comes down and the cage actually bolts to your frame here with a 9/16 bolt that goes up through here. So there's 5 bolts that hold that leg in, and the other 2 on the other side. This one obviously has a rear winch as well. Why? Because I do stupid stuff and I get stuck everywhere. And sometimes I got to recover myself. Again, same thing with the bump stops. Bump stops sitting super low on this guy. Actually, they're sitting at the same height as the top of the tube. You can see how much that bump stop actually moves on that. Again, because the triangulation on this one is a lot different than the triangulation in what we did on that one. Now, the cool thing about this kit is everything on the frame Motobilt gives you. Everything back here we put ourselves. When you're looking at this, very similar design. I built a reinforcement bar that comes up through this, welds to that up there. So there's one here, and then there's another plate right here that actually sandwiches the cage, sandwiches that. Weight-wise, I think that this one outweighs OG by 500 pounds maybe. But this one, again, big motor, 6.2 supercharged. You can see how we've already gotten into stuff. But if you can imagine if it was rubbing right there and this thing was sitting down here at like, again, 4 inches down and 5 inches out, I wouldn't have made it through there. This one also has an engine cage that wraps the entire engine, which is pretty trick. That was Jason who did that for me. Super talented guy. And then the panels on this guy open, the panels on OG don't. Okay, so that's GRDLOC and Alter Ego, both renditions. Now, let's look at what we're getting ready to do. So I have just over a month to get this thing to a point that is drivable. Great build. I like Robert because I'm ex-military, Robert's ex-military. We get along, we're both just ornery old military people. The story of how Robert came along to be a part of our team, I had been seeing him show up online and do that kind of stuff. I did not know that he built his entire rig to mimic OG GRDLOC, because that is kind of what pulled him into all of this. It's kind of cool that now I get to build this thing up to a point of where, you know, I hope he enjoys it more. It just got a new blueprint 350 in it. This thing is what I would call your traditional CJ build. Let me show you some of the reasons why. So this hood is not a highline hood. If you look at the other ones, this indent is gone. So my hoods are only this tall. This thing, this should be like up here so that your tire can go up higher. So your shock can go up higher. And then you've got a lot more clearance down here, because right now he has 3 inches of up travel before he's riding bump. I've never really been a huge fan of when things like cut here and there's a gap here, and it looks like things were patched together instead of actually organized and put together. One of the other things is again, I showed you how I reinforced my whole rear end. If you're looking at this, that whole thing moves. Now this wheelbase is 115 inches. You can see that he has 0 departure, and his shock is almost in the same exact place that mine is and all of that stuff. 1, it's a lot smaller of a shock. 2, the tower's a lot smaller. And 3, he doesn't have a crossover tube above the frame, which puts a lot of stress on top of that coilover. Now his cage is rolled into this. Since he's going into this the way he is, and you have the 2 bolt thing right here, this is not, to me, a super safe way to do this, because your entire C-point hinge is riding on that joint. So we'll probably cut this, rebuild this a little bit, and I'm probably gonna actually try to bring these towers up so I can raise his coilovers up. He has the TMR rear sway bar on this. I don't really have an opinion either way on that. I do, out of all the ones I've seen, like the ones that go up here. This one, we're probably gonna move that to the other one. It brings it further, sucks it in tighter, and it's just a lot thinner and cleaner. One of the things I don't like about CJs is how far their bumpers sit out. So he does not have 0 approach, right? His bumper hits 4 inches before his tires do. There's 2 reasons. 1, he hasn't cut that back. There's a ton of gap. There's a ton of stuff back here that we need to move this thing back a little bit for him, probably at least 4 or 5 inches. Once we get that all moved back, we're probably gonna push this forward a little bit so to give him a little bit more wheelbase, but we're also going to pull that tower out of there, do tube work inside there, and kind of get all that stuff together. And I think that if we do all that, it's gonna work a lot better, which means we're probably gonna have to move his steering box in a little bit so that I can get the tube on top of that frame like I did on OG, and then I can build kind of like a fish plate that'll go onto that tube and onto that. All right, so that kind of explains a lot of the process in this thing. I think his triangulation is probably fine in this thing, the way he has it set up. I'm probably not gonna mess with that much. I might have to build new lower links, which I'll probably design them, get a length on them, and then just have Summit build them for me. I personally love the aluminum links on the bottom. They slide over stuff a little bit easier. They hold up a lot better. It's a solid tube. And once we get through all that, we are gonna be ripping out this whole setup that's in here. Now this is a pretty cool setup. So this is a toolbox, power tank mount, and a fuel cell all in one, which is, I mean, it's cool, but that's an actual fuel cell right there. You know, it holds, I think 15 gallons of gas or something like that is what he said, or 12 gallons, but it doesn't hold that much. I don't like these. I think that these cheapen the build. There's also this one down here that I think cheapens the build. So I'm probably going to get rid of all of that and put a nicer tail light back here. But other than that, I think we're gonna leave the cage pretty much the same. There's no reason to chop that up. We're not doing a windshield chop in this. But when it comes to fuel cells and fuel stuff, this is what I always put in everything we build. There hasn't been like a purposely built vehicle with an aftermarket tank that has not gotten air motive. What I like about this one is that's all of your stuff in there. It sits inside this. So you don't have to have a ton of baffles and things like that inside a tank, because this holds about a gallon of fuel inside this thing. And so what happens is when you're sloshing left and right and you're off camber and you're doing your stuff, this is mounted in the center of the tank. And so it holds all of the fuel in it that it needs while you're going over an obstacle or doing something traditionally. And then, it bleeds back into here. Here is all of the stuff that Motobilt just sent. I'll kind of walk you through it. So this right here, these are YJ fenders. Why? Because they do not make a high clearance CJ fender that looks like this. I'm gonna take the YJ and I'm going to make that work on that. Now, what I'm gonna try to do is, I think the YJ hood's a little bit longer than a CJ hood. When I had to do it on Alter Ego, where I have to cut that down, put it back together and splice weld it, you've got a new front bumper here. Now, if you look at that bumper, again, it's sitting way out here, right? I don't want that. I want something that's a lot more compact, a lot tighter. Dan sent me this over, which is their CJ bumper. This thing's a lot more narrow. Everything sits in tight. It has a place to mount a light. It has your winch mount. Super digging that. It has your fair lead mount up there. This is your rear bumper. Now again, when you're looking at his other rear bumper, doesn't have any design to it. It's very just flat tube. Just a big flat bar with some D-rings on it and that kind of stuff. That's their rear bumper we're gonna be running. Now we are gonna be doing the same boat sides that Alter Ego has. They're right here. I believe these are the YJ boat sides. That again will go right up to a CJ because the tubs are almost identical. The reason I like these boat sides for Motobilt is, again, when you're cutting all of that floor out right there, what's gonna end up happening is you're gonna have a giant hole. This actually fills all of that in, which is pretty cool. When you're looking at it, there's a lot of pieces. So I'll drill all these holes out and we're gonna weld this baby in. Then those are reinforcement plates over there. And then you've got these tubes right here, are basically gonna be your rock rails. I have these on Alter Ego. I had to make new ones just because I stretched it and they didn't have these for those. This stuff will bolt right onto that one. And then they have these are for your steps. When you're installing these, they give you your new battery boxes and trays and supports for these high lines that basically would move all your stuff up if that was a traditional YJ. I may use some of that for support. I might not use those at all. You've got also new rear fenders because I'm getting rid of all the tube and we're going to design flat metal tube work and all this cool stuff that Motobilt has done, where it's a fender that is more of a flat fender style that's bent metal instead of tube. I think the tube is a little outdated when it comes to the fenders. Jeeps don't come from the factory that way. This right here and these right here are the new vent systems that you saw Motobilt worked with us and designed. And the reason I'm excited about those is because I'm going to be able to come in here and give his V8 a bunch of airflow. It will modernize the front end of this and it will also match the new high lines that we're putting on this. So this thing is getting like a whole mommy makeover. It is getting a Motobilt fuel cell as well. That's the same fuel cell that I'm running in Rock Buggy. I think there's 18 gallons in that thing when you're all said and done. It's not their biggest fuel cell, but it's super compact. And what's nice about that is taking that fuel cell and putting it inside here, right behind those batteries. So you're gonna have a ton of room inside this thing that you didn't have before when you put that fuel cell back here. We're also going to be, again, changing our coilover points to the same style that we put on Alter Ego that are gonna bolt here and here. Again, this is gonna cut around. We'll probably wrap this guy around across there, and then we'll tie this whole tube right here and bring some stuff down to it so that your entire rear end is supported off of these coilover mounts, but then also comes down and grabs that frame. This whole rear end is gonna be getting a lot more structurally designed and tied into each other. And then your coilovers are probably gonna move again to the top of the axle and be tilted on like a 15 degree that way. It's just gonna give it a lot more stability when you're out wheeling, stuff like that. We'll try to get him up on top. He does wanna go with 3.0, and that's what we're ordering from King. We're gonna do the adjustable bumps, or what I like. It allows you to lift the bump up and down about an inch and a half to really dial in up travel and stuff. This is Bucketabolt CJ7. You'll be able to see all the upgrades and all the stuff we're doing. I'm super excited because I love working on CJs. I love working on old Jeeps. They're just a lot easier. These newer Jeeps, the bodies suck. Everything you want to weld to them, everything you want to fabricate on them, it's just like you try to weld stuff and it's popping and it's doing stuff because of all the different, metals in it. Like when steel used to just be steel. Before you had to put all the magnesiums and all the stuff in it to make it lighter. Listen, I'm always about information or ideas or suggestions. So if you have a bunch or you have anything, drop it in the comments below. If you've seen Alter Ego, if you've seen OG out there, and there's things where you're like, I don't like this, then tell me how to fix it. I would love for you to tell me that. I would also love to know if there's new things that have come out that I haven't seen yet. I personally think that Motobilt is dominating the market right now with design, fit and form, function, all of these things that you want from someone who's designing the outside of your car with armor. They're investing a lot of time into R&D. Bender's over there doing an amazing job with fabrication. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like a pinnacle that we all want to be like. Dan and Hunter, again, great people. What's going to be super cool is we're getting ready to tear this thing apart. This thing is literally getting put on the lift and not coming off for the next month. Got to get to it. Hope you guys enjoyed this walkthrough of both these builds and what we're getting ready to start. All the cool things we're getting ready to put in it. So, I'll see you guys on the other side. Good morning, day 2, trying to get this thing done. So we have the fenders kind of all, organized on what we're gonna do with these things. We've already modified them pretty good. We cut this, right? Shrunk it 1.5 inches. But when you get in here, you can kind of see where that weld is now. So this has been shortened, and then we coped it pretty close to match this. It's not gonna be perfect because when I go in and weld this, I'll touch it up, make sure everything looks good. But you can see that my line over here is almost centered to this hole right here, which is where I wanted this side to be as well. Line over there is centered to that hole. Now when you're looking at this thing, it's got a way, way higher approach. Before, these things were sitting clear down here. That portion's done. Angel's just trying to grab me some steel, so we'll be pretty close on what we're doing with this as well. Hopefully by the end of the day, I have these fenders all hard mounted. They're all bolted in where they should be bolted in. I'm gonna weld some nuts in these things so that we can actually use those again. And we're gonna be cutting out all this suspension right here and getting rid of all of that because we don't need that anymore. But it's definitely gonna give it a way higher look with its approach and departures and stuff. When you're coming in and out of this thing, we're gonna be sucking this up for that approach. And then our departure is pretty good right now, but we're gonna be pushing this thing a little bit, moving coilovers to axles on top of things. And other than that, got a couple quick things to do. Got to build some templates for these front legs off those fenders. They're gonna wrap around that grill. And we should be pretty close getting this thing put together.
Trailblazer.
I've been cranking on this thing for a little while today, but just want to show you guys what I've got done making. So earlier you saw me making templates and that kind of stuff for these fenders and how we're gonna mount these fenders on this thing. So we took some 3/16 flat stock, right? So there's a lot of bends. You can see all the different bends that are in this thing to give us like that CJ7 front fender look. But check this out. So you can see how that guy is in there. Got a little bit of tweaking to do, but other than that, this thing is pretty good to go. We have about 1 week and a few days left to get this thing completely wrapped up. A lot of tube work has happened, but kind of show you guys. If you remember, we were saying like how the rear body on this thing isn't really supported anymore. So kind of show you some of the things we did to alleviate that. We pulled our whole rear corner up so that we have a good seam right there. And it kind of matches this side as well. We've got a little wedge over there pushing everything out. Now that allows us to get all this stuff in. Now, you can see we threw a little brace in there. So we corner gusset. Our triangulation drops right down onto that mount itself. Again, that's the coilover coming up through there. You can see where our hole is gonna be coming up through as well. And you can see how we kind of ladder framed both sides to tie into the whole cage back here. I'll probably throw 1 or 2 more pieces of tube in this thing, just, you know, for some nice transfer on it. We've already, again, got it all bolted down. When this thing came in, it had the towers that mounted on top. So those were coming up off of the frame, and you know, those were 12, 13 inches tall over to the bottom of the fender. Then you had your cage landing on top of those. So those were like this crazy weak point that it could snap, in theory, off the frame and off the cage. So now you've got it structurally sound that it wraps around. The whole cage is connected back here. We sleeved a lot of places that we needed to, and we are gonna do an RTL mounted back there. We just figured out the spacers and stuff for that, but other than that, this thing should be pretty stout. So I'm gonna get to welding, but our game plan right now is, do you see these brakes right here? Well, that's where my new coilover mount is gonna be, right in front of that axle, kind of almost by that sway bar mount. So it's gonna come right off the top of that link, so this brake is in my way. But I think what we can do is we can take that mount and the one that's on the other side and the brake caliper off both sides and flip them. And if we flip them, this caliper will basically sit here instead of here. And we'll still keep our bleeder valve right there at the top on this side. So the brakes will be behind the axle instead of in front of it. You know, in most off-road conditions and stuff, this is gonna be fine. It's gonna be a crawler. I do believe there is some connection to having your brakes on the front of the axle for stopping power. We're gonna knock this thing out, try to get this thing done by next weekend. Actually by like the Wednesday of next week, because we gotta have it loaded. Cool stuff. It did work, so I'm kind of excited about that. So you can see how we flip the brakes on these things. I don't know what is up, but whoever welded the flanges on, these are now like 5 degrees off from each other, which kind of bugs me. But other than that, you can see how we've cleaned this all up. We have a nice pad sitting here now. So you'll have a couple mounts that'll come off of here, and then they'll go all the way up, pop through a bigger hole obviously, and go right into the towers that we put in earlier today. You can kind of see those up in there. We got a little bit left to finish welding in there. So we'll have a couple mounts there, and then we'll have our sway bar links that will actually come off of this side and go right up to a new sway bar we're putting in there. And then we got these little tabs we just made. Those are gonna be our shock, our lower coilover, lower shock mounts for those guys over there. Again, all this is gonna be done a little temporary to get stuff knocked out for the new axles that are coming. I do need to move these though, because what I did notice is these hit each other when they're coming in at full bump. Never put these directly above each other. Always offset them a little bit. I mean, we're looking good. I'll come in the morning, knock this out, throw an air saw in there real quick and throw the coilovers in and see if we can't do a flex test on this thing real quick before we pull the cage. It is Wednesday, towards the end of the day. We are getting ready to flex test this thing. What's crazy is how low this thing is sitting and how he still has that much up travel now in the rear, which before this thing was sitting 3 inches higher almost and had a lot less up travel. Let's see how this thing does. Okay, nothing smashing. That's good. Some loose hoses. Tires barely touching back here. It's just the nubs on the inside they're touching. It's not hitting frame yet, which is good. It's getting close though. We're clearing by like a millimeter. All right, straps on. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It's still down. Right there. So we are gonna have to cut this back here. Now he's actually using his suspension. So good news is we left room to cut that. It is into coilover a little bit back here though. So we either need to limit the straps or figure that out. All right, I mean, but you can see now how his geometry is working better. Everything's kind of better Nothing is hitting, tires clear. Man, and that was first stab at it. We haven't even adjusted anything. We're not hitting anything there, which I like. So that's kind of the perfect place. It's also not even hitting this yet. So that's all good. Dude, everything clears. I wonder how tall we are. So you could probably go 60 inches on this thing. 5 foot of flex on a rig that has 109 inches of wheelbase. Got a couple little things to work out, but other than that, you need to start welding, putting this thing together. I think we're gonna be able to do all this without taking the cage out after all, and getting this thing all dialed in, and then heading out to Arizona's Great American Crawl at Table Mesa. Good afternoon or something like that. It is Sunday. This thing is in pieces still, but came in this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Got a ton of stuff done. I'll show you some of the stuff we did. I feel like we're in a pretty good spot because now it's just assembly time. And this doesn't have a ton of stuff going through it. So we don't have to really change a lot of stuff out. We just got to add some connectors for some of the lights we've been doing. The Motobilt tank came back. You got your fill, air motive stuff set up, your sender. This is all of the freshly painted parts that we just finished. Got our new CJ7 Baja Designs bezels in, and I just finished up the grill, new turn signals, cool little 3D printed guys, LP6s that are the new headlights. We've touched up the whole body on this thing and painted some stuff. All of the rear suspension is done. So you have the new track or the new sway bar that we put in with the new links. Everything's a lot tighter and more compact. All of this has been painted so that when the guys get in, they don't have to, worry about getting all of this stuff done. We do have to drill and tap and put in some rivets on those. Not a big deal, but again, you can see just how nice and clean that sway bar is down inside there. We got the boat sides to do, and that's it. Everything else on the front is all done, welded. Everything's all ready to go. Our new bump stops are in. We're gonna be running Kings in the front, and then when this thing comes back for new axles, we'll put the Kings in the rear, and that's when we'll change over to King coilovers on everything. We are gonna be going to a 3.0 when this thing comes back with the new axles. The grill has been sanded down and painted. It's all black steel. These are the mounts that we make here in the shop to fit an LP6. Pretty simple. You can just tack weld them on. 3 spots on each side. It's not crazy. It's pretty simple to do. Kind of excited. Get this thing back together, see how it looks. It's a lot more squatty. Again, when this thing came in, it had about 1.5 inches of up travel, which is, Robert always complained about not being able to go anywhere, go fast, because every time he'd do anything, it'd be bump stops all day long. So now the nice thing is where he bumps out with this thing and where his ride height is going to be, he'll have about 4 to 5 inches of up travel. And that's not a ton if you're going to go fast. You definitely want like around 6. The nice thing is when you have 4 or 5 inches compared to 1.5 inches, you can go a lot faster in places, but you're not going to sacrifice a lot of your LCOG with this build. I'm out of here. Go hang out with fam for the weekend. Come back here and we'll get this thing all buttoned up and head out to the crawl next week. This thing is in pieces, but all those pieces are coming together. So let's see if we can get it done in time. All right, hey, how's it going? It is 10 o'clock on Wednesday, March 4th. We're just about done wrapping this thing up. We should be ready to go in the morning to head out. We just got some stickers in from Dan. He's gonna be swinging by in the morning with the rest of the stickers for this thing. All right, so the whole front end is together. I am completely digging this front end, right? Obviously it looks a lot like OG and the other one. It does have, these are black on this one, which is cool. This thing has definitely got a whole new front end looking. If you notice, it's a lot stubbier. Kind of looks like a pug all shoved in right there. But there's still a ton of room inside here between the front of the engine. You can kind of see in there how much room there is between the front of the engine and that cooler back there. We did move the power steering cooler behind, and this is now your transmission cooler right here. We've got a dual pass from Mishimoto in there. Kyle is wiring up some more of the stuff right now, getting some stuff wrapped up. You can see a lot more room over here. How much room is actually in this thing still? So we could really chop this thing and move it back, should we? Should we chop it and move it back a couple inches? No?
Maybe a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of running one battery in the front when you can. We didn't have the room in Alter Ego, but we do in the Bug. And so it's always nice to have one battery up here, runs everything, and then we got a spare battery right back there behind the seat, you'll see. Angel's been in here for like 27 hours drilling holes. He likes it. He's like a drill hole guy. So you can see how we reinforced that foot right there with the donut. It has a 3-inch radius on it. You can also see how we bolted everything in this thing. It's a lot more stout now. This comes down, actually bolts through there. Angel's gonna be really upset when he realizes he put grade 8s and not button head Allens. So he's gonna have to flip all those. Because if he were to look at Alter Ego, he would notice that all of those over there are button head Allens, so they don't catch rocks. We did have to change out the spacers on this. We put a little bit wider of a spacer on it to get into a similar track width to the front. So when this thing is at full flex, that tire doesn't get into that coilover. Because again, he doesn't have full width axles in this thing. The fuel tank is all in. That's looking pretty cool. We got to run the vent, and that's done. Coilovers back here are all done. You can kind of see how this is all bolted together now, and it's a lot cleaner. We've put new panels in, that kind of stuff. We did build all these custom Motobilt things for the rear tail lights. So this is Motobilt's tail lights and Motobilt's Gladiator trim that we cut down and used for this. I would like to put new corners on this thing. Just because of the way this looks, I'm not a big fan of it. I would like it to come in, drop down, you know, and do its thing. Kind of finished out like those are. Sway bar's all done. You can see how we finished this up in here, so it's just a lot cleaner. All those are bolted through in there, and it's just, there's a lot of big heavy bolts going through everything now, through the slider. So the slider really connects the whole lower part of the cage together. Just again, a lot more stout, a lot of trim stuff, a lot of trick stuff going on. If you've ever had to spool one of these winches before, I absolutely hate them. Disclaimer, they're annoying. But they are better than the ones that have the bolt holes right here that end up breaking on you. The way I typically do these is I don't use the wire they give you. I take 3 or 4 wraps of baling wire, put it around an object, run it through there. Then I use the winch to kind of do itself. Let's see if this works. Good. Hang on. Yep, go. Yep, go. 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 Stop. Now come back. Come back. All the way. Keep going. Keep going. Boom. Look at that. First time that easy. Worked pretty smooth. So now we just got to get our wedge, get that shoved in there. I hate doing this, but that just made it so easy. I always forget to do that. I always forget to put this on too, but I got it on this time. The rock guard. So 2 for 2. All right, so now we're into getting this little wedge in, right? But when you go to put it in, it doesn't go in very easy. Another trick, long extension, 1/2 inch, so you don't mess anything up on your drum. And you want to free spool it to where you can get that up there like that. Lock it again. Take this guy, push that guy down there, and you get it down there like that, and just pull. Like that, use some leverage. And there you go. Wedge is in. Now round 2, in order to suck that guy in there like that, again, use the winch to your benefit. Got that in there so that we don't cut the line on the edge of the thing. Got our rope guard in there. It's all doing its thing. Wanna make sure that's gonna lighten up right. Go. Keep going. Now go the other way. Hang on. Go. Go. Stop. Okay, see how it spun a little bit right there? We gotta fix that. Yep, go. 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 Ouch. Go. Go. Stop. Go back out. Go back out. Out, out, out. Boom. Got it almost all the way in. Okay. Come back the other way. Stop right there. All good. Flush. Time to start running this thing in. Hood's all done over here. I am a pretty big fan of these vents that Motobilt built. I'm using them obviously in my stuff. We did put the drip trays in because the motor he's running a brand new Blueprint motor that the intake is just one of those old school donut intakes on it. I personally don't trust the water, like water coming in and landing on that. So we actually put the drip trays in there that you'll see. So those drip trays actually let heat escape, but doesn't let water fall on the motor. pretty cool. We just got to get this thing installed, and for the most part, this thing is, you know what I mean, pretty slammed together. We just got to put seats in it, a couple little more wiring things to do, and then hopefully it starts. Wait, did he pay for that option? All right, we'll see you guys in the morning. Hopefully this thing works. All right, hey, how's it going? It is about 3 o'clock. We are getting ready to head out. It has been a long night, but this thing is all good to go. We've got about, I don't want to say 3.5 inches of up travel, 4 inches of up travel. If we need to adjust this thing while we're out there, it's not that hard. We can find something, flex it out, and do all that kind of stuff. Started it up, had a couple leaks, fixed those. Other than that, let's come over here real quick and let's see how this man is feeling about his Jeep right now.
Oh, ecstatic. I just can't stop smiling.
So tell me what you wanted to happen with this thing when it came down here.
I was set up for rock crawling in New Mexico, El Paso, Texas area where you have dry riverbeds, and I needed a lot down travel to go wheeling. Well, crawling on the East Coast where I was living for the past 10 years, it wasn't that bad because you go from the trailhead to the trail and it's just right there and you can't go fast. But living in Utah, it takes 5 miles just to get to the trailhead. And everybody's just zooming past me like crazy, and I'm like chucking along, because I had 0 up travel. And so Nick worked on the suspension for me, and hopefully, and we'll see, I'm pretty sure it'll be much better. Ride like a Cadillac.
So we did that. We also fixed some other things with it. You had basically your normal CJ bottoms on this. Now it has the Motobilt boat sides, which really tucks that up and pushes it in. Did that, changed out sway bar in it, changed all of his actual mount points for his coilovers as well, lifted those up really high so that he has more up travel without having to go super high in the air. Right. I think it's around the same height it was when it came in here. I don't think it was much higher than it was, but it's sitting, again, we've got about 3 inches more up travel than when it came in here. And we can adjust it more if he wants it to be more, but I know you do want it low as you can get it.
Because I'm a little person.
He also wanted something a little bit more trick in this thing, so we do have the RTL up there from Baja Designs. So now he can go out there on the trail and he can have his running lights so that when he's out there, people can see him in the dust and all that kind of stuff. It does have reverse and everything all built into it now as well. Let's go check out the front end of this thing. It is, I don't know. I think that CJ should have came this way. LP6s, obviously, in there. So it has the bezels and all the stuff in there that we normally do with the CJs. These are your fog lights down here now. There is no more parking lights, so to say. We moved them up there to the LP6, but everything's super bright. He does have the new Xeon XD 10S. Now these have a 40-foot line speed on them when there's no load. So you can wind these things in super fast compared to, you know, your old traditional winches. He does have a dual pass Mishimoto transcooler in there. He is using his intake on his radiator as a transmission cooler as well. Everything has been kind of cleaned up so you can access everything a lot easier with this thing.
A winch on the inside?
Oh yeah, we did do the winch control in there so that he can run that now from without having to get out of the car. Other than that, you got your fuel tank back there from Motobilt. You got your power tank, which is pretty easily accessible now as well. Batteries we have one battery up front. He has a lot of space for storage now back here. They didn't have before because he had that big silver guy back there. It was nice with the fuel tank. It was a toolbox, everything, but it was just a lot of weight. And so now it's a lot cleaner in here. You've got your power tank. Again, right up there, it's easily accessible. This is one that does have a snorkel in it. So when you have the snorkel in there, you can leave him in there and he can just access it right there, pull his hose. Resis are up there, so they're gonna stay nice and cool. They're not tucked away or somewhere gonna get banged on. You do have an Odyssey hidden down there behind the seat, which is nice. So a lot of his electronics back here are running to that, so that he doesn't have to run all of his stuff back up to this one right here. And then all of his main stuff up here is running to this, but he still does have his battery kill switches and all that kind of stuff. So yep, he does have the new PRP 6-point harnesses. Those are pretty cool as well. So we got to get these things loaded up. Alter Ego's already on the trailer. The shop is actually starting to look empty a little bit. It's just a mess. So we've got a few more things to get loaded up. We've got some flags to do it, and then we're all hitting the road and heading to Table Mesa. Get these gills in there for you. Yeah, I just want to make, I want to put my contribution in for you, Kyle.
Glad you helped. You must have installed the whole fender now.
Yeah, 100%. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. I got it. No problem. No problem at all.